Hello, Embird users. This is Lisa WeQuilt with WeQuilt Studio coming to you again with part 2 of this auto outliner series. And in this part, we are going to see how we can do auto outlining around all the stripes and the outside and the star. If you recall in part 1, we only did outside, the circle, and the star. So I went ahead and I copied and pasted just the fill parts and the star so that I could use these objects here. You may notice that this star is a little bigger than this one. Well, that's because when I copied and pasted it, I had realized that I made this one incorrectly, because when I created my stripes, you have to create your stripes to where they're like cut off right here and here and here and so on. Well, you have to create those stripes by using build shaping difference, but you can't do it with the original size of star that you have, here on the screen. You have to actually shrink this star and then do the build shaping difference. That way, this, like say this stripe, for instance, will end a little farther in. You'll have an overlap. It'll be a little farther in because your star is smaller. I forgot to do that. I did build shaping difference with the star at this size and left it. So I forgot. So when I came to copy and pasting, I just made this original star bigger. I expanded it by 2 mils, and I'll show you what I mean. If I take all of these objects, this is actually the circle that I started with, because on this example, I'm going to show you how to do this, this auto outlining if you have the original circle. So I'm just trying to show you different scenarios. But anyway, so from here, and I'll hold shift down to there, I'll just erase the stitches, objects, erase stitches. Okay. And what you can see, I have here's the original star. I have it hidden. Let me bring it back. Okay. And so you could see the original star is the darker blue. And let me just kind of zoom in a little bit. And so you can see, wait a minute, sorry, no, yeah, my original star here, this smaller one, okay, you can see that, say, this stripe, for instance, ends right there on the smaller star, the one that I shrunk. Actually, to shrink it, you go to shrink it or expand it, you go to transform offset and you expand or shrink. And I actually, well, normally you'd shrink it, but I had to expand it because I already created my stripe. I already, excuse me, I already created my stripe objects to end in the wrong place. But my point being, this is what you use. So either way you start, if you forget, you use expand or shrink. And I used 2 mils. So if you use 2 mils, that means that the edges are like 1 mil. Remember, Studio is different than Editor. In Editor, if you shrink something 2 mils or what have you, the edges are 2 mils, but Studio is not. shrink something 2 mils, the edges are 1 mil each. So anyway, so I had to take the original blue, that's the smaller one, I had to expand it. Let me X out. So I had to go transform, offset, and expand it the same 2 mils. And you can click on this to type it in and whatnot, or you can, click there, your right or left mouse. So now you see that my stripes are ending where the smaller star was, but my star is bigger. It's more expanded. So my new star, this light blue one, is ending down there. So we'll have that overlap. So I just wanted to point that out before I started the video. And that's what I mean about, I don't know if I mentioned this before, creating this design is a whole video in itself, because because of all the tools that you have to use, the build shaping difference, which in Studio Regular it's transform shaping difference. But I think I will try and make this part of the series to show how I created these stripes, just so that you know. And I know that should have been part 1, but I wanted to delve right into the auto outlining. So anyway, so I'm going to hide this dark one again. I'll click, okay, there we go. And I'm actually just going to like move it up. Whoops. Insert before, okay. It's nice because in Studio Next you can still do things to items that are hidden, but yet I hate the long hold to hide them. So at any rate, and then you still kind of see them when I have the stitches gone when you're in 3D. That's because when you're in 3D, and I think even when you're in normal or vector view, yeah, you have to generate them for them to hide. So that's something that is kind of hard to get used to. Okay. Wait. Thought it would. Let me make sure. Yeah, I generated it and it's still... So maybe it's because I have to generate this one in order for... I'm not sure. I thought that if I generated it, it wouldn't show. But it is possible that it's not showing and that I'm just seeing the blue one, because this is a light blue color. Let me go ahead and make this not a blue, but say a green. Okay, so this is hidden. It's kind of an illusion that this one here looks as though it has another smaller one in it, but I believe that's just because on the outside edges you don't see this gap here, and I think this gap is just here because these stripes go underneath it. So it is kind of confusing. So I probably didn't even have to generate this one. Let me go ahead and just do erase stitches on it. Yeah, I erased the stitches on it, so I have the same, I believe. Not sure. Yeah, because if you look over here, you don't see this gap. So, and I know I just butchered that explanation, but this is hidden, rest assured. And I believe it was, okay, let me go into 3D. Okay. In 3D, nothing is generated. Let's see. It looks like the purple is generated. Let me go ahead and hold shift and erase all the stitches. Okay, so they are all erased. You're just seeing the fabric background. So, and this one is hidden. I selected, it doesn't even show selected. And these here are showing. So when I go into normal view now, you'll see that I have a nice overlap. So given that, let's talk about the auto outliner now. When you look at these stripes, you see that the orange ones are stitching after the purple. Okay, so the purple you can see kind of are wide and they stitch first, and then the orange ones stitch after and they overlap. So the orange is what you see. So if I were to generate these two, and I'll go into 3D, select them both, and generate. Okay, so the orange is kind of like the one we want to follow for our outlines, because that's the last one that stitches. If we followed the purple ones, then we would get like, you know, our stripes would be off. They would be like over here instead of on the edge of the, if we followed, no, you're not going to see it that way. Right now I have the red selected, or the purples rather selected, and you know, our outline would be along here, which would be inside of the orange, and the orange stitches last. So we want our outline to be on this line. So given that, you say to yourself, okay, well, when I use auto outline, I just want the orange to show. And so you say to yourself, you know, the orange outlines to generate. And technically they would, because we have them in the right order. They are overlapping, so they're not quote unquote colliding. Colliding means that they would be exactly running on top of each other. So you think to yourself, okay, if I wanted to do an auto outline of, say, just the stripes, I could click both of them, technically. Well, let's see what happens if I do that. Let me just hit Control S. So I have them both selected, Build Auto Outliner. Cannot process edges lying on top of one another. Eliminate colliding edges first. And you think to yourself, well, they're not colliding because they're overlapping. Where are they colliding? And you say, oh, it's probably these tiny little sections on the edge. You know, these little sections where it's the same exact, you know, from here to here, there's two edges exactly on top of each other. That's what colliding means. So you can't really do auto outline for something like this. Let me hit Control 1. So you have to handle this a little differently. And it gets even worse if you say, well, I'm just going to select everything, the star, the stripes, and the circle, because I want this outside edge, right? And they're all fills. Auto outline should work, but boy, you really have colliding edges then, because this circle, this outside edge, collides with everything, basically. It collides with this purple here, this part of it. They're the same exact line, you know, on the edge here. This orange and this big circle have this same exact line. So with this one, you're going to get the same thing. Build auto outliner, colliding edges. So you say to yourself, okay, well then I'm just going to start with the stripes. Well, which stripes do I start with? I don't start with the purple like we said, because they're the underneath ones that are overlapping underneath there. They're tucked under the orange. So if we look at the orange and we say to ourselves, okay, the orange is my final stripe, and I mean, yes, it does stitch under the star with overlap, but the star is after the orange, okay? So auto outliner takes that into consideration. That's the point of auto outliner. It'll look at the last object, and that's the one that it'll make the outline for. So I'll get orange outlines here, but they won't go into the star because Embird will make the next outline, you know, there on the star, because that's the last object. So, and we can't, like I said, we can't just do auto outline with these two, the orange and the purple, because we'll get colliding edges because of this small area on the edge. So let's just start with the orange stripes and the star. Hold Control. We'll at least get most of our outlines. So I have those two selected. I'll go to Build, Auto Outliner. Successful. Do I want to arrange them in a single? No, I don't want to branch yet. I just want to collect these. Okay. And I'm going to make them blue. Drag that over. And you can see that, you know, towards the end, I have the star. So this section here and all the way down, if I hold Shift, that's all the star. Because Embird knows, you know, if you chose Auto Outliner, you want the outermost or the last object is the one you want to stitch last, so that it looks like it's on top of the orange stripes. So it did that great. So that's all the star. And I'm just going to group the star. Group 1. I'm not going to worry about arranging anything because I'm going to branch everything at the end. And the rest of these are, you know, the stripes of the orange. And you can see that the orange has some of this outside. That might be a hindrance when I work on, say, this entire circle. You know, if I just use the entire circle, well, this section is going to be doubled up. I won't have colliding edges because I would do like the circle with the star. I would select them both and do an auto outliner on them. So those won't have colliding edges, but once I create the outline, I'm going to have a doubled up set of outlines right here, because this circle is going to make its own outline where the orange already was. So these orange ones that were just created, I probably, to make life easier, because remember in this example, I'm going to go on the premise that I have my circle already. So I'm probably going to just go into just these 4 objects and delete this section. And for the next one down here, I'll delete this section for this one. I'll delete this section and so on. And this one, I'll just delete that section. Then I'll basically just have to do an auto outliner with the circle and the star, and that'll give me this line that I want, and it'll give me the star again on top, but I'll just delete all those objects. Now you say to yourself, well, I don't even have to do an auto outliner. I can just take this circle here, make an outline, convert, fill to outline, and then just delete these sections where it intersects with the star. And yeah, you could do that, but it's the same amount of time, and you're not exact, and so on and so on. So it might actually take more time. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take each of these sections and delete these outer sections, because I know I'm going to use this later. And remember, if you don't have this, then you're up against working with just the stripes, in which case it would be kind of the same scenario, but you would take each of your purples and auto outline it with the star, but then in that case you have to delete this right here, this outline here. Well, you wouldn't have one here, because if you're doing an auto outline with the star, this would not generate. But you'd have to delete, first of all, everything that the star made, because we already have that with the orange one. So you would delete this section. You would have to delete this section. I'm sorry, the red is what's selected, this section. And so you would just keep this outer circle. And you would have to do that on every one of your purples that were generated. But in this scenario, so that's a little different even than how I did it before on the last video. But for this scenario, we're going to make it simple to where we just have, we have the fill. So let's go ahead and, like I said, whoops, down here to the blue outlines, let's delete each of these outer sections. So click edit. It's ending there. So I'm just going to click here, right click, split object. Okay. Now this one is selected. You can see it over here. Edit that. Right click on this one, right click, split object, and this one we want to keep, this one delete on your keyboard, and then this one stays. Go to the next one down here, and we'll click edit, click here, split object, keep that one. I'm sorry, delete that one. That's on the outer edge. Okay. Keep that one. Next one. Edit. And you notice, like, okay, so this one is starting and ending in the same spot. It should be. No, it's not, because the star kind of goes in a little bit. Let me zoom in on that. Juts in a little, so you could see they're not, the outline is starting and stopping, before it hits the star. It's kind of a cool example to have. So let me zoom out with my minus button. I'm holding it down, but not for long, just so I don't zoom out too much. So what I like to do, what I've been doing, is I look to where it ends, and then I backtrack to where I want to split. Usually then it selects the right object in the right, not always, but it saves me a step of selecting the correct next object. Right click, split. See, it selected this one. I still have to edit it. Edit, click here, right click split, but now it's selecting the one. This one still has to be edited, so but I'm going to go back up to or down to this one and delete it before I move on. Okay, so now this one, just delete this section, edit. Where does it end? It ends there, so I'm just going to select this one, split, and it selects that one. I still have to edit, click, split, selecting that one, but this one that's next, hit delete. So now I have these, I have that one, just all horizontally striped objects. Okay. Where was this one? This one here. Where was that? Did I not get it yet? Let's see. Let me see if I can. Oh, it's that one. Okay. So this is the last one then. Let me zoom out a little. Use my right mouse, drag over. Whoop. Drag over. That doesn't move the object. It just, your pan method. Edit. It ends there. I'm going to click here. Split. Takes me to this one. Edit. Click. Right click. Split. Keep that one. This one. Delete. Okay. So now I have all these horizontal stripes and the star. So now I can actually, none of my outside edges are outlined. I'm going to go ahead and group these because these will be my orange stripes. So I can keep myself organized. And so now, like I said, I'm going to pretend like, I had the original circle. And I'm going to select the circle and the star and do auto outline again. And this time I'll keep this part that generates, but I'll delete all the outlines that the star made because I already have that down here. And if I didn't have this circle, I'd do the same thing with the purple, only I'd have a lot more sections to delete. I would take the purple and the star and do auto outline. But we're just going to pretend like we have this one. So I'll hold it. Let me hit Control S. So I'll select the circle and I'll hold Control, select the star, build, auto outliner. No, I don't want to branch. There we have it. Here's our circle. Here's our star. These two, hold Control, hit delete because we already have the star. So we're going to, just a little tip later on when we branch. Well, we're going to branch now. Let me make this the same color. Okay, when you branch, so we're done using auto outliner. Now we're going to branch them ourselves. That's why we said no to that question. So when you branch, the object that you want to stitch last, when you're done branching, that's the object that you put first. So I'm going to take this with my left mouse, let go, drag it, let go, and insert before. I want the star to stitch last. And I actually, I kind of want the circle to stitch second last. So maybe I can have control over that. I don't know. Let's drag that up, insert before. So the stripes are last, which means they should stitch first in my branching. Now, before you branch, you want to set your outline parameters. Say, what if you wanted a decorative outline? Well, you set that now before you branch, because if you set it later, it's hard to separate out the backward paths. It's not hard, but you have to go up to your select button and all that nonsense. So you kind of want to do it now. And so maybe I'll go ahead, just so you could see the difference between the travel stitches and the final backward path decorative stitches. I'll go ahead and give this outline the same outline that I gave this up here. I'll go into params. I could just drag down and say set identical params, but I just want you to see it. The one I used, it's similar to my, this one, it's similar to my arrowheads, but slightly different. So it's this FRA 006S, and I set the width for a small. I just click on here 1.1, just saves me a step. I hit enter once since I clicked. When you click on here, you just have to hit enter once to get rid of this. If you type in here, you hit enter twice. But I clicked on there. So it's going to be thin. I'll leave that as is, and I'll hit apply just to see how it looks. I'll go into 3D. Done. Okay. Something is not generated. I believe this star, so you're not seeing it good. In 3D, you kind of have to generate things to see, my outline here. What do I have showing? Oh, I have this showing. We don't need that anymore. Let's hide it. Sometimes you have to select it and then hit the eyeliner part. Okay. So there you go. But here's the thing, it's not branched yet, so like this is stitching first, so it doesn't look right there. But that's okay. I mean, see, you want this to stitch last. So I'll just hit this and hit Control 1 so I can zoom out. So now that I see I like my outline, now I'll branch everything. Let me hit Control S. I'll click here, hold Shift, and now I'll go to Build, Outlines, Arrange Outline Parts is branching. So, and it's going to give me the connection, they call it connections or whatever. In this case, this one says no connections. When they say no connections, they really kind of mean travel stitches in this branching technique. So I want the travel stitches, or in other words, they're using the word connection. Technically, it's not a connection, but just so you know, this is the one you want because you want the travel stitches. Click there. Okay, it created it here. It grouped it all up. You can see it down at the bottom here. And you kind of want to look through these. You could ungroup it to look through them, but you want to scroll through. Make sure you don't see any scissors. You can see the single stitches are travel stitches. The FRAs are decorative. Okay, so you did it right. In other words, your branching worked. And the reason it worked is because all your outlines were touching in some way. Branching works really well when things are touching. And Embird is the only software that I know of that when you branch, it gives you exactly 2 layers, not 3 or whatever. In some spots, and 2 in others, and 1 in others. It's 2 layers exactly in the entire branched sequence or what have you. The decorative stitch did stitch last. This was the travel stitch. See, it says single stitch. So let's click this and click generate. Okay, let's go ahead and grab this. Let's see how this area looks. Okay, so the star is stitching last over everything else. Let's see how this selected. Let's hit Control 1.